Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best examples of like here. This is a great video from back then. Immediately after this, David Jones went and talked to someone.
I've been seeing a lot of things talking of the people making commentary. Interestingly enough, the ones I've noticed that have been making the commentary are wealthy black people making the commentary about we should not be rioting, we should not be looting, we should not be tearing up our own communities. And then there's been an argument of the other side of we should be hitting them in the pocket. We should be focusing on the blackout days where we don't spend money. But, you know, I feel like we should do both. And I feel like I support both. And I'll tell you why I support both. I support both because when you have a civil unrest like this, there are three types of people in the streets. There are the protesters, there are the rioters, and there are the looters. The protesters are there because they actually care about what is happening in the community. They want to raise their voices, and they are there strictly to protest. You have the rioters who are angry, who are anarchists, who really just want to fuck shit up, and that's what they're going to do regardless. And then you have the looters. And the looters almost exclusively are just there to do that, to loot. Now, people are like, well, what did you gain? Well, what did you get from looting? I think that as long as we're focusing on the what, we're not focusing on the why, and that's my issue with that. As long as we're focusing on what they're doing, we're not focusing on why they're doing. And some people are like, well, those aren't people who are legitimately angry about what's happening. Those are people who just want to get stuff. Okay, well then, let's go with that. Let's say that's what it is. Let's ask ourselves why in this country in 2020, the financial gap between poor blacks and the rest of the world is at such a distance that people feel like their only hope and only opportunity to get some of the things that we flaunt and flash in front of them all the time is to walk through a broken glass window and get it. That they are so hopeless that getting that necklace, getting that TV, getting that change, getting that bed, getting that phone, whatever it is that they're gonna get, is that in that moment when the riots happen and if they present an opportunity of looting, that's their only opportunity to get it. We need to be questioning that why. Why are people that poor? Why are people that broke? Why are people that food insecure, that clothing insecure, that they feel like their only shot, that they are shooting their shot by walking through a broken glass window to get what they need. And then people want to talk about, well, there's plenty of people who pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and got it on their own. Why can't they do that? Let me explain to you something about economics in America. And I'm so glad that as a child, I got an opportunity to spend time at Push where they taught me this, is that we must never forget that economics was the reason that black people were brought to this country. We came to do the agricultural work in the South and the textile work in the North. Do you understand that? That's what we came to do. We came to do the agricultural work in the South and the textile work in the North. Now, if I right now decided that I wanted to play Monopoly with you, and for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money, I didn't allow you to have anything on the board, I didn't allow for you to have anything. And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. That was Tulsa, that was Rosewood. Those are places where we built black economic wealth, where we were self-sufficient, where we owned our stores, where we owned our property, and they burned them to the ground. So that's 450 years. So for 400 rounds of Monopoly, you don't get to play at all. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them. So then for 50 years, you finally get a little bit and you're allowed to play. And every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money. And then finally at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct? But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire? So if I played 400 rounds of Monopoly with you and I had to play and give you every dime that I made, and then for 50 years, every time that I played, if you didn't like what I did, you got to burn it like they did in Tulsa and like they did in Rosewood, how can you win? How can you win? You can't win. The game is fixed. So when they say, why do you burn down the community? Why do you burn down your own neighborhood? It's not ours. We don't own anything. We don't own anything. Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have, that if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give a fuck. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own, by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so fuck your Target. Fuck your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this bitch to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
One of the best subjects. It was one of the best videos I've ever seen on the matter. Of course, predictably, you know, Hassan Piker's greatest hits clips. I see successful people of color every day. The ones I know are not wasting their time making excuses for the looters and rioters and trying to get people to feel sorry for them. Asians dispel all her arguments, says analytic reason. The model minority take, once again. The notion that like Asian people are a monolithic structure is a silly one. You're not talking about like the Vietnamese. You're not talking about people that are coming in from dire conditions. You're talking about Asian people that, even like myself, actually have been able to immigrate into this country, that are coming from significantly better backgrounds, significantly better economic situations. And you're comparing them to black people that were brought into this country through the violence, the colonial violence of chattel slavery. That is, of course, incredibly fucking stupid. As far as comparisons goes, that's dumb as fuck. No other group of people have been so robbed systemically of their own personhood, of their own personality. And once you fucking watch a black woman talk about this, talk about like in the most eloquent way, describe the consequences of said dehumanization, and you still turn around and you go, well, Asians dispel her arguments. Well, there's nothing. Like, you need to be lobotomized to fucking understand. Oh no, don't say eloquent. Yeah, dude. What? How? Cohesive. Like this. I'm not saying she's what's the word? What's the word that Joe Biden used to describe fucking Obama? I'm not using that. I didn't say articulate. I said eloquent. Because it is. She described the conditions so perfectly in such a cohesive and clear way. Anyway. Anyway, it's so stupid debating semantics once again. Both Tulsa and Rosewood were part of a systemic slaughter of black people in successful black communities. Tulsa was Black Wall Street, also known as Black Wall Street. Like, a lot of black businesses were there, and racial violence took place where white people literally dropped TNT from fucking airplanes and leveled an entire fucking city. Same with Rosewood. Rosewood was in Florida. Rosewood is not as well known as Tulsa because it wasn't as like it wasn't as big as a massacre, but it's the exact same thing. Don't forget the move bombing in Philly. Well, the move bombing in Philly is, again, a more recent example of like an entire black neighborhood being leveled, but it's not coming from the same. The justifications for it and the fact that the police decided to drop actual C4 into a house where there were like black babies inside of that house. The justifications for said anti-black violence were the same, but the impact is not. The African family were not like business owners or something. It's not like they purposely directed that violence towards them. The indifference was the same, but the purposeful direction of said violence in Rosewood and Tulsa were because of the economic success that black people were engaging in. Like the economic success that really frustrated black people. The indifference to said violence in both of those situations, and all of those situations are still, of course, the same because, white supremacist systems. It's Kimberly Jones. There's a real chance for black people in those areas to find equal purchase with white people, so racist white people retaliated. Yeah. Rosewood was one white woman blaming one black man of raping her when she was actually just cheating on her husband. So the white people murdered almost every black person in the town and burned all their houses. That's exactly what happened with Tulsa too. The igniting igniting racial fire that is enough for fucking white people to be like, all right, we got to go kill every black person in this fucking industrious town, is always a white woman being like, oh, this black person whistled at me or some shit. Tulsa was the exact same thing. A black person shared an elevator with a white woman, and she turned around and said that this black person, whistled at me or something. So they did racial genocide, like literally just fucking. Same with Emmett Till. This happened so much back in the day. Yeah. So an entire black neighborhood in Wilmington, North Carolina was slaughtered in 1898 as well. Almost no one knows about that one. The Wilmington Massacre? I'm unfamiliar with that even. Holy shit. Usually I'm pretty well versed in this stuff. America's only successful coup d'etat overthrow a biracial government. Oh. Okay. No, yeah. This was racial terror as a consequence. This was a coup. That's why I wasn't thinking about it in the same way. Yeah. The Wilmington insurrection. It's one of the organizing principles of the KKK, the protection of white women. It's not just racism. Yeah, no, I mean, it comes from racism. But yes. The FBI was created to protect white women. What do you mean? They needed a federal agency. They created a law called white women trafficking, okay? And needed a federal agency to deal with like interstate commerce. It was when white women, okay, on their own volition, decided to travel with black men. So we needed like a federal fucking government agency to deal with that. Literal federal body inspectors? I mean, kind of, yes. Yeah, here it is. Jack Johnson is the victim of this this action. White people hated that Jack Johnson was just beating the fuck out of their champions. Here, yeah, the Mann Act. In 1912, Johnson opened a successful and luxurious black and tan restaurant and nightclub, which was desegregated, which in part was run by his wife, a white woman. Major newspapers at the time soon claimed that Johnson was attacked by the government only after he became famous as a black man married to a white woman and was linked to other white women. Johnson was arrested on charges of violating the Mann Act, forbidding one to transport a woman across state lines for immoral purposes, a racially motivated charge that embroiled him in controversy for his relationships, including marriages with white women. Sentenced to a year in prison, Johnson fled the country and fought boxing matches abroad for 7 years until in 1920, when he served his sentence at the federal penitentiary in Leavenworth. Johnson continued paying fights for many years and operated several other businesses, including lucrative endorsement deals. He died in a car crash in June 10, 1946, at the age of 68. He was formerly pardoned by President Donald Trump, by the way. And in order to enforce the Mann Act, a federal agency needed to exist. Dude, so much American politics, so much of our federal government, so much of our statutes, its beginnings come from white supremacist roots, including this country. So it's so stupid when people are like, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean America's racist? Point to how racist it is. Also, the Lou Alcindor rule, they banned dunking from the NBA because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the only black player to be able to dunk. It was seen as an unfair advantage. Yeah. It's so silly to like look at all of this stuff and go, wow, like, where is the racism? Like, it's everywhere. It's in every part of our lives, dude. Literally every part of our lives. Because this is a white supremacist country. It was built on white supremacist values. It was built to uphold white supremacy. Okay? So the FBI can turn around and talk about like how, okay? I mean, here, by the way, shouts out to my alma mater, but like Policing Sexuality, the Mann Act, and the Making of the FBI is a book on this by Jessica R. Pliley. Policing Sexuality uncovers and recounts the story in the lead up to and the later enforcement of the Mann Act, the focus on the federal agency charged with investigating possible Mann Act violations, and the narrative is essentially chronological. The original investigative arm was the Department of Justice Bureau of Investigation, which itself was founded only in 1908 and named the Bureau of Investigation in 1909 before eventually transforming into the familiar Federal Bureau of Investigation in the mid-1930s. The chief source materials for Pliley's careful and well-written study consists of nearly 1,000 case files from the BOI and FBI investigations into potential Mann Act offenses between 1910 and 1941. Which, by the way, are, of course, classified, a lot of them. I wonder why. Pliley suspects that the administrative error is to blame. We literally built the FBI to police what black men were doing consensually with white women. Asmongold banned? Wait, what? Why? How crazy is that? It's not crazy if you know anything about American history. Actually, fuck that. It's still fucking crazy. Honestly, it's still crazy. Even if you know so much about American history and you expect it, you still probably are like, I never knew this. This is fucking, this is insane. I've talked about it before, but even then it's fucking crazy. Asmongold is not banned. Someone was just fucking lying. Got it. FBI was more about Red Scare. They upgraded from basic racism when they changed the name. No, but the original inception of a federal agency was created. Yes. Much like, okay. Much like every institution that we have, yes, all of our institutions are anti-communist. Oh, Zach Rahr is banned. His alt is banned. That's so weird. How the fuck does that work? Anyway, regardless, can we focus on fucking history? We're literally like, we're having a conversation about like American history, something that most of you had no fucking idea about. And you're turning around and you're like, oh, dude, Asmongold's alt account was banned. Oh, what the fuck? That's so crazy. Like, dude, how is that relevant right now, man? How the fuck is that relevant in any meaningful capacity? What the fuck's wrong with you? Holy shit. Sometimes I hate this fucking platform so goddamn much, dude. It is so sad. It is such a sad, pathetic state of affairs that like people just don't give a fuck about anything that is significant or important. It sucks. Icing on the cake is, of course, it's like me talking about fucking issues that pertain to black people. Anyway. Why should we give a fuck? Not like giving a fuck would fix anything. Are you fucking stupid? Learning about your own country's fucking racist history is insignificant. What are you, a Republican? Just close your eyes and ears and act like it didn't happen? This is where it starts, dumbass. The first point of order, the first point of business is learning about the fucking racist history. And then you educate others on said racist history. Okay? That's how it spreads. I should just quit what I'm doing and just play fucking video games and watch dumb fucking YouTube videos all day, I guess. I could do that easily. To much success, as a matter of fact. Fuck it. Anyway. White boy enlightened with the wisdom of the Holy Trinity, but I didn't enslave anyone. Exactly. All right. Though commercialized coercive. Oh, here's the other part of it. Okay. In the early years, for instance, some agents viewed their job as including the prevention of offenses, so they advised brothel owners and sex workers on how they could avoid Mann Act violations. In the mid 1930s, alternatively, Mann Act enforcement aimed at post-prohibition organized crime, with the addition of perceived benefit of producing favorable press coverage for the FBI and its head, J. Edgar Hoover, who personally led some Mann Act raids. Though commercialized, coercive prostitution was the original target of Mann Act, and the any other immoral purpose language raised the possibility of the act to be applied to consensual, non-commercial sex. This possibility rose in the forefront of the 1917 Supreme Court decision, which upheld Mann Act convictions for two married men who took their girlfriends on an interstate vacation to Reno that was intended to facilitate the divorces for the men. The legal adoption of the broad interpretation for immoral purpose allowed the Mann Act to operate as a federal seduction law, providing parents and victims a tool to use when the bounder who had promised marriage left for another jurisdiction. The broadening of Mann Act jurisdiction in the non-commercial domestic disputes was something that was long sought by many citizens. Most Mann Act investigations were initiated through private complaints about some actual or perceived sexual impropriety, another fundamental American principle, which is puritanical attitudes towards sex, by the way, or someone preying upon a family member, but not all women qualified as victims of this species of seduction. It helped if they were young, white, and of a chaste reputation. By 1940, the FBI largely abandoned the pursuit of cases involving private, non-commercial immorality. But yeah, enactment and enforcement of the White Slave Traffic Act is what happened. I am running. What, dude? Okay, I can't. I'm not gonna do that right now. Didn't the Republicans just try to say that white women were being trafficked recently, specifically by immigrants? Yes, of course. That's not new, is what I'm trying to explain. Okay. So, how the fuck